Hey everybody, welcome back to RiverStone Rhythms. I'm here with my friend Sarah.
Hi.
And we are going to do a special podcast episode today. As you all are probably aware, we haven't done one of these in a while. We've been quite busy with a residency
Yeah.
who Sarah happens to
Woo!
be a part of. So today's episode, I believe we have 4 of the residents that are going to come on. I'm going to ask them some questions, and they'll just get to share based off those questions so that you guys can get to know them better. And we just thought it would be a fun, little, unique podcast deal.
Yeah.
So here we go. I'm going to start with, for the residency, for those of you that aren't aware, we have a theme Bible verse that they spend most of the summer, or I guess every day of the summer, for their devotional time, going over this specific passage in a gajillion different ways. And so I'm just going to open with that, and then we'll get into some questions.
Sweet.
So the verse is Philippians 1:20 through 21. According to my earnest expectation and hope that I will not be put to shame in anything, but that with all boldness Christ will even now, as always, be exalted in my body, whether by life or by death. For to me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. That's a good Bible verse. You should go read it. Maybe do your devotion time on that, as we have, because it's been awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, to start, the first sort of question is introduce yourself, where you're from, age, interest, hobbies, whatever you want to share along those lines.
Sweet. I am Sarah, and I am from Atlanta. I grew up in Dunwoody, the Dunwoody area, and I feel like lived 8 different lives.
That's awesome.
I moved back to Georgia. I've been back in the state of Georgia for about 2 summers now. And I moved back I was living in Colorado before that, and then living in Alabama for undergrad, for college before that. So I am older. I'm 28, but older than a lot of our residents, I should say. But I just have lived like 8 different lives. I love, let's see, what are some of my interests? I love to paint. I'm really creative. I love to write. I love to do anything really creative, and meeting with God in that way is also really tender and sweet, a really sweet place that the Lord draws me near to him in creativity. And then I also love to be outdoors. So love to go skiing, love to take walks, all that stuff.
That's the best.
Yeah.
I love it. I also enjoy the outdoors, and I can't paint, but it is fun.
Yes.
I definitely write. Writing is probably my go-to thing. So the next thing, what led you to pursue this residency, and what were you hoping to discover or grow in connection to it?
That is a great question. So this is like kind of the beginning of I have been saying like kind of a second career for me. I pursued a seminary degree, master's in divinity, and thought that I was going to do that and do chaplaincy with that. So I was a chaplain in hospitals, one when I was living out in Colorado, and then one in Atlanta, in the Johns Creek area. And I really had this hope of being a chaplain in prisons, specifically, I think, in working on death row. And I think that that's a very specific calling and a very specific heart. But I recognized through that process that the Lord was just asking me to be obedient to him. And I think probably it was in November and December of last year, so 2024, that I really felt like God was asking me to step away from this pursuit of chaplaincy, because I think that I was just white knuckle gripping it, and thinking by the world's standards, even in a job, unto God, thinking like, what does success and how can I chase success? And really the Lord just revealed like obedience looks like, and success looks like following me and just hearing from me. And so, I decided to step away from my residency program through chaplaincy through the hospital. And I have been going to RiverStone for since like Easter of 2024. And so I heard about the residency program last summer and heard all of the wonderful things. And then while I was kind of processing this like major career change, major life change, I was like, what do I do? I really want to do this. Really want to participate in this and know that it would really stretch me.
Yeah.
And I felt like the Lord was pushing me to, just take root in RiverStone. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Kind of like my journey.
Fun. So this could maybe be connected into this because that was like discover or grow things connected to the residency. And then kind of up until this point, the next two questions are sort of linked, but it would be where your expectations kind of were, how things are currently with like that experience. And the first one is, what has God been teaching you lately about himself or ministry or yourself throughout this process?
I think that I have been learning a lot about calling and what that means vocationally versus what that means personally, and how sometimes those can overlap. But yeah, just what does God actually, like, what is biblical base for calling?
Yeah.
And I feel like for this residency, I have done a lot of like, okay, God, I am, a part of my nature is to be a planner. And I love to know what's going to happen 5 years down the line.
Yeah.
And
same.
that is very, like, I'm being stretched a lot in that, to really have like fresh manna every single day and fresh reliance on God. Like, God, what do you want me to do today? And then when that comes to calling too, how do I honor God in a vocation that I'm not really sure, like, where, I don't know the specifics, but I feel like that there is such a, like a biblical truth that I just don't think that it necessarily is. One time I had a conversation with Pastor Tom, and talking about calling and vocation, and he really shared with me that it feels like less of a tightrope that you got to walk and figure out how to balance and like figure out where you're going, but more of like a river as the imagery, that like you are floating down this river with God. Yeah. So I feel like that has been a big theme of residency. And then also creative, like creativity has been a really big push for me. It's in some of these instances in our prayer room, one of the prayer room sets that the residents led this past week. It was the first prayer room first like time that I have done art publicly, like in a worship setting. Yeah. Not for like monetary or monetization, but like genuinely just as this like devotional act towards God in worship. And so I feel like the Lord has really been pressing that into me and onto my heart through this residency to grow in that and learn what that looks like.
That's awesome. I find that I struggle a lot with calling in the way that it's portrayed or utilized in most contexts that it's spoken about. And like when I think of Moses, calling was more hearing the voice and responding, not that, like, you could say that it also had to do with him leading the people like through the Exodus experience, but that the basis of that was hearing the voice and responding in obedience to it. And I like that, what Tom said a lot about the not a tightrope versus a river, because even let's say if you felt like you had a specific calling, but the time at which that thing would be fulfilled is when you're 60. What do you do if you're like Moses and that moment doesn't happen until 40 years after you've already been in a desert, you know? Yeah. And so for me, it's come back to like my true calling is obedience and service to Christ. Yeah. And whatever the things are that I do with my time and my talents are typically based off of the things that he's given me. So it's like discerning what physical things I'm supposed to do outside of the direct obedience has more to do with like, what are the sovereign things that God has ordained over my life related to the gifts and talents and desires that align with his ways. And those things have typically blended way more regularly. And then like the last branch is also like generational inheritance. Even if we come from families that don't follow Jesus, there are typically like sovereign themes over your family lineage, even if they've been lost or haven't been paid attention to, because our God's a generational God, that when spending time there, those things have become more clear for me over time. So that same process of like discerning between those things, and like,
that's good.
Because I even try to view it like all day, every day, lots of things are calling to me. And what ultimately becomes our calling is what we choose to give our effort to. What's the voice? What are the things that are calling to us that we say yes to? Because the devil's calling to us just as much as Jesus is. And if we pursue the thing that feels right according to what the devil's whispering in our ear, our calling becomes listening to that call versus his call. And so I think there's like that thing. Heavily in identity stuff.
And I think too that speaks to kind of even just you asking like, okay, well, what's your age? And me even saying like, I'm older than some of the residents here. But that even speaks to, I think, like a huge cultural thing of like, okay, you go to college and then you graduate college and then you're in your career and you've figured out what you want to do. And that is how does career line up with calling, and why is there, when God doesn't exist in the timeline of like culture, how do we interact with that? It's been really interesting.
Yes, that is a process. So the next question is, can you share a moment during the residency that stretched your faith or changed how you see the church or Jesus?
I gotta think about this for a second.
You can take as long as you want.
I think one thing that has been really cool for me, and I want to speak for all the other residents too, but is the experience of, so we are taking, part of our residency is we're taking courses, kind of classes. One is on leadership, integrity, and influence that is taught by Savannah. And one is actually the biblical worldview class that's taught by you. And one of the really cool things that I feel like I have come into the realization that, and how did I not know this before? It's funny because I've been in school for so long, but like I come alive in these types of environments where there's freedom to ask questions. I think that is how I interact with God the best, is being able to like, hey God, what do you mean by this? Or to get curious. I love curiosity. And so there was a moment in your class that I genuinely won't ever forget, where we were we're talking about Genesis and the chaos waters that the world was created in. And then for kind of like, it almost felt like sparks across the class for all of our like personal revelations and like eyes to light up. And to get to be in that room to watch everybody like experience this, like, oh wow, the Bible is not only real and living and like it impacts our world and how we view our world, but also it like is connecting and expanding itself across like in meaning and like literally, but across like New Testament and Old Testament, and there's so many connections. Just the teaching on the chaos waters that we're talking about in Genesis, how that relates to when then the miracle of like Jesus walking on water and Jesus like defeating kind of this chaos and how if we don't have that understanding even in our biblical worldview, how we read that and we do think it is a miracle like Jesus walking on waters, but there is this like even deeper layer to it that was really cool. And I think that like really impacted my faith, and I know the faith of a lot of other residents, to be like, whoa, this makes sense. Like, that was really cool.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see like the kindness of God to make it like, and how it can only be God, that his book can be read and understood so many different ways that still speak to the truth of who he is. So it's not that it was wrong perspectives specifically to view the thing as a miracle. It's that those who seek find. And it's like the deeper treasures are only there when you seek it out.
Yes.
So it's like even the things that you know in the general sense always have deeper knowing that can be found. And the classroom setting is where places where there's why questions is like every why question is the digging deeper. Like if you ask yourself, if you pick any belief that you have and you ask why and you keep asking why, you'll get to a point where you don't know why you believe that thing. And those are like the invitations to like dig deeper. And so I agree. Yeah. It wasn't until last year's residency that I realized how much I love the classroom setting and being able to like both have a space for people to wrestle with hard things and questions, but also to see those like light bulb moments where your brain is connecting things you knew, but seeing them in a greater light, and it like broadening your understanding of who God is. It's the best. Well, those were all the questions. So do you have any last thoughts that you want to share in relationship to like yourself or the residency, or just the experience in general?
Honestly, like encouragement. I feel like I don't know like who the specific people that will be listening to this, but I think that there's so much depth that God is asking us to step into within his word and with his spirit. And I think the biggest encouragement is like, if that, for me at least, was like kind of taking a leap of faith that like, okay, I can put my ideas of success, my worldly ideas of success on pause for right now, because God is calling me into deeper waters with him. And so I think that and into a season of like residency that is like deeper meaning, deeper understanding of God's word and God's character, and which only produces like deeper refinement and sanctification. And to like let go, I think, as a big encouragement of what we consider worldly successes for God's ultimate timeless success in That's us, awesome. In and through us. So,
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Awesome. Let me text CJ so we can jump in here real quick.
Thanks, Sam.
Hey, you're up. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate your insight and wisdom. That's probably my other favorite thing about like residency and long-term environments with even short-term long environments with people is like we all can learn from everyone. And so that experience of like I'm teaching a class, learning from students, it's like that the kingdom of God is such a give and take of like no one has lived the life that you have lived, and so everyone has the ability to share in unique perspectives on the same topics. And so thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yay.
Ta-da. You're up, CJ. Where the residents will be kind of swapping out, so I might edit this like transition stuff, or I'll just invite you into what it's like to do all this stuff. So here we are.
This is dope.
Awesome. So what's up, man? We're going to start with introduce yourself, where you're from, age, interest, hobbies, just like a little bit of let the people know.
Okay, cool. Am I talking to you or the camera?
It's up to you. We're like having a conversation. They're here with us. That's how podcasts are. So if you want to introduce yourself, look into them, that works, and then conversation can be back and forth.
Cool. So my name is CJ. I am 23 years old. I was born in Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico.
Yeah, Latinos in the house, and I left when I was pretty young, and then I went to Orlando, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've been living here in Georgia kind of since February, and developed a bunch of new hobbies. Like I forged a knife for the first time,
That's
like by
awesome.
myself. Yeah, it was like the manliest thing I think I've ever done in my life.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and I did it with a guy who I not consider like a mentor and a friend, which is really awesome.
That's awesome.
And yeah, just a lot of like country stuff.
Country stuff
Yeah,
is new.
Yeah,
Not the same as
it's like
going to Orlando parks.
Yeah. Because you grow up and there's like like there's Disney and Universal, and you kind of get used to like living around attractions, what's free, what's not. And then over here, like a guy texted me, he was like, "Let's go river fishing," and I was like, "All right." What does that look like?
We'll figure it out. Want to go to a mountain, a small one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like pure Floridian, like a mountain.
A mountain. You're like, what is it? A large hill? That's awesome. So for the first kind of like question to talk around is, what led you to pursue the residency, and what were you hoping to discover, grow in connection to it? And if you want to respond to your expectation or what you were thinking, and where you're at now, maybe how they're the same, how they're different.
Yeah, that's such a good question. So when I was living in Orlando still, I knew God was calling me to come to Georgia. And I always thought that was going to be through FCA. I did FCA in Orlando. That was like, someone offered me a role to do FCA here. I had to fundraise and kind of the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I was kind of struggling with it because it's hard to tell someone in one state, hey, I'm actually not doing it here for you guys. I'm doing it for them.
Yeah.
So just give me your money.
Yeah.
That just like doesn't always work. And so I was going through like a really rough moment. And I remember I was like fasting and abstaining from social media. And so I called my friend Jordan. Shout out Jordan. And I was like, hey, bro, I just want to walk this out with you. Because my pastor had presented this idea. He said, did God call you to do FCA in Georgia, or did he just call you to Georgia? And so I had to like really meditate on that and just be like, okay, I need clearer direction.
Yeah.
I was walking this thing out with Jordan. And he was like, did you not see the link I sent you on Instagram? And I was like, no, I haven't been on Instagram.
That's funny.
And he was like, well, it's for like a residency program at the church. And I prayed about it, and I just felt so much peace.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to apply. And I'm still in the middle of my fast. And I was like, Lord, I'm going to apply to this, fully just trusting that if this is what you want me to do, then just open that door.
Yeah.
And I'll steward and I'll serve the land that you called me to. And so I did, and then now I got accepted, and I'm here.
Ta-da.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I guess just a little connection to that. So you're hoping to discover or grow in while you were here / where you're at now. What does that blend feel like?
Yeah,
we
man.
got 4 weeks left, I think, after this week.
Yeah. We're ending week 6. I have always known, always is exaggerated. I've known since high school, when I've had to actually think about careers, that I just wanted to do ministry. And I knew that God called me into being a pastor, and I have such a I say I have like a pastor mind and evangelist heart. Like I just want to care so much for the community, and it's hard to like do everything I want to do while working another job and then building a career outside of ministry. And so I just wanted to always do that. And so this residency was a great way for me to get practical skills and kind of see exactly how it is to kind of run and function within ministry, and how the back end of a church looks like outside of the one I grew up in Orlando, right? Because not every church is the same.
Definitely.
And I learned just that. And one of the things I was, really meditating on is like, okay, am I gonna still want to do ministry after this? And I feel like that was like a good place to be at.
Yeah,
you know
for
what
sure.
I mean? Just be willing and open to like learn and be malleable.
Yes.
And I feel so encouraged now more than ever that I really want to pursue
awesome.
this and continue this.
There you go.
Yeah.
How about it? Next question. What has God been teaching you lately about himself, ministry, or yourself? Or like a combination of that?
Oh, man. We've had this conversation a lot
Uh-huh.
of sonship.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we have.
And so that has been the biggest kind of like driving point, I think, ever since I've been here, is I normally operated as like a soldier and like you know, Lord
like
of Lords, Kings of Kings. Yeah. Yes, I am receiving orders from my general.
Yeah.
and I will just fulfill them, right? And so even when God called me to kind of pack up and go into Georgia, which is like one of the most humbling experiences when you could fit your whole life in an SUV and it fits. You're not even having to play Tetris with it. Like everything just fits. And just going from like being a soldier to now everything I'm doing comes from like I'm a son. And so it really feels like when them little kids are on the playground and they're like, well, my daddy's a police officer and well, my daddy, and it's like that's just how much I want to brag about God.
Yeah.
And so everything I do is now from the abundance of a love from my father instead of a soldier who's just willing to take orders. And that all is about heart posture. And where's my heart posture?
Yeah.
And so I think does that fully answer the question?
Yeah.
There's like parts to it.
It's because it's a blend of them. Because a large part of it too is when you're studying the names of God and the character of God and those things, it's like it's about like order of priority. So it's like you're first a son, even though you are a soldier too, you know? And so it's like, but it's like you're taking orders from your father, who also happens to be your Lord and your Savior and those things. But he wants it to be done in a relational, like that you trust him. It's not just like that there's a general who's ordering you to do things and you don't know if he actually desires what is best for you or that he actually loves you and cares for you and he's just telling you to do stuff. Yeah. And so it's like that beginning place of sonship, daughtership, like identity stuff is recognizing, it's our Father who desires to give us good gifts and to create like Christ-like character in us. He's going to give you orders, but it's based off his love for you, not based off of just whatever.
100%. And it's almost like incomplete because even when I tell people about this amazing season, these revelations, and I'm telling them, it's like, you know, I see God as a father. Not that he's ever stopped being Lord of Lords or King of Kings. Yeah. I can't take that away from him, even if I wanted to.
Absolutely.
But if I'm only seeing him as Lord of Lords, or I'm only seeing him as King of Kings, I am highly limiting who God is and can be in my own life. Yeah. Which has been so dope.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah. Good stuff. Next question. Can you share a moment during the residency that stretched your faith or changed how you see the church or Jesus? So like perspective shift. Sonship is one of them, but just like, could you highlight a moment in class or a Bible study or something that made you go, this is how I saw something, and now, like that's not how I thought about the church or how I thought about Jesus.
Yeah.
So ways. And you can take a minute to think. You don't have to like.
Off the dome.
Off the dome.
I would say the first thing that does pop into my head as you say that, and I was kind of thinking while you were saying it, have to be your classes. Your classes are kind of what I look forward to all week, because they completely force you to look at the word and to say, what does this mean, right? Yeah. Even when we went even to with the Spirit of God hovering over the waters, most people just kind of read by that, and it was like, okay,
Sarah mentioned the same thing. That's so funny.
Seriously?
Yeah. She was like, that like moment where like across the room there's like all these sparks like going off and people are going, and like connecting it to other stuff that they know.
One of my favorite memories I still think in residency is when we're all kind of like, we're supposed to go to lunch right afterwards, and everyone's like, no, give Sam another hour. We were supposed to go to lunch at 12, and we were there till like 1:30, and we were like keep going. And it was just so like amazing to just even get so much context, and then to grab those different things and go back home and like teach it to my friends, and to be like, look at this amazing thing, and chaos means water.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, that's probably been what has stretched my faith the most. And so not even my own personal time, I'm kind of like reading through and letting God point stuff out to me, and to like research, what does the one word mean, or let's look at it in Hebrew, let's see what that means, kind of thing.
That's awesome. So the last thing is, if there's anything in general that you want to share from the experience of being in the residency, it can be like an encouragement to the people listening, something that like even to future residencies, whatever it may be, just any last things that you feel like you want to share.
Like a last hoorah.
Yeah.
Man, y'all gotta give me a minute for this. Just gotta put like the little buffering
symbol over here. Yeah.
If I had to say like one thing about the residency, I guess it would be to be malleable. Like, don't come in here trying to have a certain expectation, and just come in being like, hey, I already have done this, that, and the other. And, and in everything that we do, just be a student, be malleable, let God point stuff out to you, and anything that you may not be comfortable with or does not make sense to you, just force yourself still to be uncomfortable, to grow, to develop. And if it wasn't for you, then it wasn't for you. But what if it is for you, and you never gave it the chance to? So just be malleable, be moldable, and just really trust into the people that are pouring into you. It's probably kind of what I would say.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing. I appreciate
no problem
the things that you have to say. I was telling Sarah, and I'll probably repeat this for everyone, but like one of my favorite things is like getting to learn from everyone. You know, it's not like I'm a teacher or a pastor that's on a pedestal. It's like I'm a student we're all a student of the same person, you know, the same God. And so the process of thinking together and sharing questions like sharpens all of us as any of us are sharing things. And it's unique perspectives from our different environments and the ways that we've grown up that like shed light on how much better Jesus is than we think
we're
he
all
is,
doing
you
it
know?
together.
So
we're all doing, and God called us to be communal creatures. Listen, in community, we can fully resemble or bear the image of Christ.
Absolutely.
Which I learned from your class, which is awesome.
How about that? There we go. Awesome. Thanks, man.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, man.
Next up. What's up?
I don't know why I told you not to tell me the questions.
So now you're panicking?
Slightly. I was trying to listen to the questions you asked CJ, and I literally just prayed. I was like, Lord, you just give me the words because I have none.
Perfect. All right, 1 second.
Chick-fil-A makes my heart stop for a second.
That's crazy.
The MSG. Okay.
I lost my questions. Scoot up just a little bit to make sure that you're in the camera, and then you'll want to talk into like the top of it. So if you need to bend it down, you can. Awesome. So first question, this is super hard. Introduce yourself. Where are you from? Age, interests, hobbies, the general thing. And you can look at me or the camera.
Okay.
Either or.
Right. I am Sophie. I'm a resident here, and I am from Georgia. I live here. I started going to RiverStone like 8 or 9 months ago, and I've been here for a little bit. And I love to sing and dance and some fun stuff. So
there you go. How about it? Awesome. First question. After that, What led you to pursue the residency, and what were you hoping to discover or grow in connection to it? And then as like a response to that would be, now that you're 6 weeks in, 4 weeks left, how has that changed or shifted from what you initially thought it might be?
Coming into the residency, well, I originally didn't even plan to apply for the residency. I was just kind of in a tough spot with my job that I had. And I went to a lunch with some people from RiverStone, and Savannah was there, and I was like, is that still open by chance? I think it was like the day before it closed. Yeah. And I was like, I'm just going to apply. And if the Lord sees fit, here I'll be. And but there was a lot of things I was praying for leading up to it, without even knowing how God was going to answer those things. And some of that was like community, going deeper with him. I've always wanted to work in a church. So like, this isn't like forever, but it's like a season of getting to do that and experiencing it. So, yeah. And then now that I'm here, you said, what was it?
It was like, well, expectations connected to it. And now that you're in it 6 weeks, how has that maybe changed, or what do you think up to this point now?
Yeah, I think a big portion of my, my desire for it was I've been going to RiverStone for a while, and I really wanted to go even further into community with even just staff here and like getting to know people at RiverStone. And I think that was a great way to do it. I mean, that's not the only reason, but that's like part of it is just deeper community. And I feel like since being here, I've really found that, and not just with the residents that are here, which are awesome people, but also the staff. Like I did not know Savannah like I know her now, and Sam like I do now. So super awesome.
There you go. Next question. What has God been teaching you lately about himself, ministry, or yourself? So all of those or one of those, whatever you want to share along those lines.
I think I've been learning a lot. I was thinking about it like this morning driving here, but like how like the areas of weakness that I do have, and then also the areas of strength I have. And I think there's a portion of me for a time that was like, I want to do ministry and I want to do X, Y, and Z, but I didn't feel like I really had a lot of confidence because I was like, I'm not really qualified. But being here has shown me like I do have strengths and I do have weaknesses, as does everyone. And getting to see how I work in an environment like this with other people that are different, but also lead in different ways. Yeah. Like seeing how we mesh together and like different things that we come up with or do or say, or the questions we ask. And I can see myself in an environment like that. And we do need everyone, like as a body.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. Next, can you share a moment during the residency that stretched your faith or that changed how you see the church or Jesus? So thinking of like a specific moment in class or a side conversation, devotional time, something that you thought one way and now you're like, oh.
Let me think on that for a second.
Mm-hmm. Take your time.
I think like what comes to mind is like the environment here at RiverStone is different than other environments I've experienced, and not that it's like better or worse, but I'm experiencing God in a new way here of like spiritual gifts and like worship in a different way than I have before. And I love to worship. And so like getting to experience God in a new way, a new form of worship has been really beautiful for me. And so I think like God is just teaching me more of who he is through that experience, like deeper experience with him and just a different new experience. And so that's been really life-changing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad that when you go to a new environment, it's like learning new things about God and how you view him and see him. And hopefully we're modeling it well.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. So then the last thing is if there's anything that you want to share either about the residency for future residents, an encouragement for anyone who's listening, or just anything that you feel led to share or want to share.
I'm very grateful for the community that I have and like fellow residents. and if you're a future resident watching, I think that you should totally apply and do it, because it'll grow you in ways that you didn't know you needed to be grown, and it'll give you great friendship. Yeah, like you'll experience God in all different ways, like with prayer and worship, and even getting to learn how to be there for other people in different capacities, and people coming from different backgrounds, and being able to even like minister to people in your own like group that you're spending time with all the time. And so it's really great training ground for ministry and just life in general. So
awesome. Thank you so much
Yes.
for jumping on and sharing things. Appreciate
awesome.
it. Mm-hmm.
Bye, Sam.
Bye. I'll see you in a few minutes when we're done. You're good to come on. You just hop in the seat and then just scoot in a little bit closer to make sure that you're in focus on the camera. You'll be good. Awesome. First question, super hard. Introduce yourself. Let us know a little bit about you, where you're from, age, interests, hobbies, any of that stuff, and then you just talk into the top of it and you'll be good. Mm-hmm.
So I'm Anthony, I'm 24. I'm from France, in Toulouse. I'm in the church La Maison. I play in badminton and I play violin too. So yeah, this is the thing I like to do.
You like Batman?
Yeah, badminton.
Batman. Cool. I don't know how much I've played Batman before. So maybe we should try to figure out how to play.
Yeah.
And you can teach me, because I don't know.
Nice.
Awesome. So the first question following that is, what led you to pursue the residency, or how did you find out about it? And then what were you hoping to discover or grow in by coming to the residency? And then now that you're 6 weeks into it, how has that changed from your initial expectations, and things along those lines?
So I was not expecting this actually. So Savannah came with a team in Toulouse, in my city. We were sitting like in the park doing like leadership meeting with my church.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not working at that time. She said, well, we can figure this out. Like, you can come to the residency. I was like, okay, let's go. So like 2 days later, I bought the ticket flights.
It's so awesome.
It was like this. Yeah, and so it was really great to meet them. It's funny because I also met Savannah like last year. So it was like, okay, a second time I see her. So
Interesting.
Yeah, it was very nice. And like, honestly, I didn't even expect something. I was like, God, like, do what you want.
Yeah.
And I'll see. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
So now that you're 6 weeks in, what are your thoughts? There will be another question later about like specific moments, but coming in with no expectations specifically, how do you feel now that you're kind of 6 weeks in to the experience?
The beginning was hard in the way that I've been in the US already like 3 times, but it's this environment when you grow spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
You learn a lot, and this is like a routine you have in a country you've never lived in, So what I really like is, to discover new things and to learn, actually.
Yeah.
Learn and process and see it in my life. And I want to apply this, So, yeah.
That's awesome. Next question. What has God been teaching you lately about himself, about ministry, or about yourself? And you can share kind of about all of them if you want, or just pick one.
So the thing he taught me is that he wants me to be first, and then to do for him. It's really hard because like all my life, I knew that it was important to be like a human being. But I was doing things, to serve him. It was great.
Yeah.
Like the mindset has to change, it's important. Like I'm not doing this for me, neither the people actually, but for God. And he wants me to be first a disciple, a child, like with father, to chill with him, talk, cry, enjoy life, and so this is what I learned. Yeah.
That's so awesome. Next, can you share a moment during the residency that stretched your faith or that changed how you see like the church or Jesus. So this would be thinking of a moment in class, a moment during devotions, or even like a Sunday morning, something that you thought this about Jesus and now you've learned this, just like perspective shifts, or moment in class or something that.
There are two things. Like the first is the culture. It's different, but I like it. Like I discover and I learn a lot through different experiences. So the culture in the church is different, but we still worship the same God. So it's like unity, you know.
Absolutely.
And the second is like your class, like the biblical worldview. It's important like to understand what's happening today and through history that actually we are lost and we need God, right? We need Jesus. It's really good to come back to the roots. Yeah. And behind every word, there is a powerful like word from God. So this is what I learned, and I want to do more with all the Bible actually.
Yeah, me too. I want to do more with the whole Bible also. I think that's been, it was mentioned by a couple of the others as well, but just even the environment of a classroom where you're asking questions and it's like this back and forth conversation of like everyone is like learning from everyone and discovering things like all at the same time. And especially like, you know, you get to come in with a unique lens for how you view the world from the perspective in France. And so even like when you share or you're thinking about things, you're processing them through the French lens while it's being like talked about from US lens. But at the same time doing things like talking about history, so broader ideas and thoughts, and then blending that into like, what does God say? Yeah. And how does that, like that, what God says changes the way we see things, regardless of whether it's the French lens or the US lens. And his desire is to make both of those like Christ,
True. You know? Yeah. Well, like also it's like the dynamic we have as students. Like we want to learn more. Like it's, you know, creating this dynamic. So it's really great.
Awesome. And then the last thing is anything that you just want to share, either for future residents, for the people that are listening to this now, encouragement, just anything that you feel like you want to share.
I think it's good to be prepared and to say, okay, well, I want to learn this from you, God, but also expect nothing, you know, and be like, it will happen what God's want me to see, you know, to live. So yes, to have posture, humble posture, and be ready to receive, so that after you can give more, you know, around you. So
Absolutely. That's so good. I think it was CJ who at that question talked about like the need to be malleable, where you can be molded and formed. So it's like you expecting things from God in the sense that like, you know, he'll do something, but not like constraining it by saying like it has to be this thing, you know, and just like the expectation that we have a good God and I know he'll do stuff, but I'm just going to let him, you know, mold in the process.
It's also the first time of my life that I sit like outside. I look at the trees, a lot of trees in Georgia, you know.
Yes, a lot of trees.
Like the wind, the birds. I'm like, okay, like stop, stay, be still, and know that I'm God. I'm like, okay.
That's a good verse.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for jumping on. I appreciate your insight and wisdom. As always, with all the residents, it's just such a gift to get to be in class with you all and learn from you all. Because, like you said, we're worshiping the same God and serving the same God, and so we're all participating as students of Him. And the process of learning together is just so fun. So I appreciate it.
Yes,
thanks for hopping on. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I don't know when I'll edit this and get it out, but we're grateful for those of you who listen and watch, and we'd love for you guys to maybe send in some other questions that we could ask residents or otherwise, and encourage you all also to jump into Philippians 1, 20, and 21. That's the main thing they've been studying throughout this, I guess, past 6 weeks, and we'll continue for the next 4, along with our classes and stuff. But it's been awesome and transformational for all of them to get to study that. So if you want to join in with what they're studying and learning, that's a great place to start. So thanks. We'll be back soon. Bye.